For years, we've been told that if we just pick the right side in the diet war, everything will fall into place. Cut the carbs and you'll be lean and healthy. Cut the fat and your heart will thank you. It sounds simple, almost too simple. And that's exactly the problem. Here's the thing most people don't realize. Your heart doesn't care about diet labels. It doesn't care if you call it low carb, keto, low fat, paleo, or anything else. Your arteries respond to what you actually eat, not what you name it. So let's slow this down and talk about what really matters. For decades, nutrition conversations have revolved around math. How many grams of carbs? How many grams of fat? We've turned dinner into a spreadsheet, and in the process, we lost sight of something obvious, the quality of the food itself. Large, long-term research following hundreds of thousands of adults over decades has shown a consistent pattern. When people build their diets around high-quality, minimally processed foods, especially plant-forward foods like vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, nuts, and healthy oils, their risk of heart disease goes down, not because they eliminated one nutrient, but because they improved the overall quality of what they were eating. And this is where it gets interesting. In these long-running studies, researchers didn't just rely on people saying, yeah, I think I ate pretty healthy. They tracked dietary patterns over time and looked at real health outcomes, heart attacks, strokes, cardiovascular deaths. Some studies also examined blood markers like LDL cholesterol, HDL cholesterol, and triglycerides to understand what was happening inside the body. Let's make that simple. Imagine your blood vessels are like plumbing in your home. LDL cholesterol, often called bad cholesterol, can contribute to plaque buildup inside those pipes when levels are high. HDL cholesterol helps transport excess cholesterol away from arteries to be processed by the liver. Triglycerides are a type of fat in your blood, and elevated levels are linked to higher cardiovascular risk. When people consistently eat diets high in refined carbohydrates like white bread, sugary cereals, pastries, and heavily processed meats, their triglycerides often rise, LDL may increase, and inflammation markers can climb. Over time, that combination isn't great for the heart. On the other hand, when people shift toward fiber-rich whole grains, beans, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and unsaturated fats like olive oil, we tend to see improvements. LDL levels often decrease. HDL may improve, triglycerides frequently drop, blood pressure can come down, insulin sensitivity often improves. These changes aren't magic. They're physiological responses, and this is crucial. You can eat a technically low-carb diet that's full of processed meats, butter-heavy dishes, and very little fiber. That pattern has been associated in multiple studies with higher cardiovascular risk over time. You can also eat a low-fat diet that's loaded with fat-free cookies, sugary snacks, and refined starches. That's not protective either. The label is not the hero. The pattern is, look, I get it. It's comforting to believe there's one villain. Carbs ruined everything, or fat ruined everything. It makes grocery shopping feel easier, but your body is more nuanced than that. When researchers compare dietary patterns, one of the most consistently heart protective approaches is a Mediterranean-style pattern that doesn't mean moving to Greece. It means emphasizing vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, nuts, fish, and olive oil, while limiting processed meats, refined grains, and added sugars. This pattern has been linked to lower rates of heart disease and longer life expectancy in multiple large studies. Notice what's missing. There's no extreme elimination of an entire macronutrient group. There's no fear of a banana, no panic over a drizzle of olive oil. Instead, there's balance and quality. Fiber is a perfect example. Most Americans don't get enough of it, and fiber is only found in plant foods. It helps regulate blood sugar, lowers LDL cholesterol, supports gut health, and keeps you full. When someone goes very low carb and cuts out whole grains, beans, and fruit without carefully replacing that fiber, they may miss out on those benefits. At the same time, if someone goes extremely low fat and replaces healthy fats with ultra-processed carbohydrates, blood sugar swings and triglyceride levels can increase. So what does this mean for you practically? It means instead of asking, how low can I get my carbs or how low can I get my fat? You might start asking, how real is this food? Does it look like something that grew in the ground, swam in the ocean, or walked on a farm? Or does it look like it came out of a factory with a 20 ingredient list and a cartoon on the box? You don't need perfection, you need direction. If you're eating white bread every morning, maybe try switching to a 100% whole grain option and see how you feel. If most of your snacks come from packages, experiment with adding nuts, fruit, or plain Greek yogurt. If dinner revolves around processed meats multiple times a week, consider swapping in beans, lentils, or fish a few nights. You don't have to become vegan. You don't have to swear off steak forever, but consistently high intake of processed meats like bacon, sausage, hot dogs has been associated with higher risk of heart disease and certain cancers. That's not hype. That's what the data shows. At the same time, healthy fats are not your enemy. Unsaturated fats from sources like olive oil, avocados, nuts, and fatty fish have been linked to improved heart health. Replacing saturated fats and refined carbohydrates with these healthier fats is associated with better cardiovascular outcomes in many studies. And here's something that doesn't get enough attention: sustainability. The best diet for your heart is one you can maintain without feeling miserable. If you're constantly stressed about every gram of carbohydrate, that's not a recipe for long-term success. Chronic stress itself affects blood pressure and heart health. You're probably not failing because you lack willpower. You might just be following advice that oversimplified the science. Before making major dietary changes, especially if you have high cholesterol, diabetes, kidney disease, or a history of heart problems, it's important to talk with your doctor or a registered dietitian. Personalized advice matters. This isn't medical advice. It's an overview of what decades of research suggest at a population level, but the big takeaway: stop fighting the carb versus fat war. Start focusing on food quality, more plants, more fiber, more minimally processed foods, fewer ultra-processed snacks, less reliance on processed meats. A shift toward unsaturated fats, it's not flashy, it's not extreme, and that might be why it doesn't trend as hard on social media, but it's consistent with what large bodies of research have shown over and over again. Your heart doesn't need a dramatic cleanse. It needs steady, evidence-based habits repeated day after day. So the next time you're at the grocery store, instead of flipping the package over to count carbs and panic, pause and ask yourself, is this nourishing? Is this mostly whole? Is this something my body recognizes? Small upgrades done consistently can move your numbers in the right direction over time. That's how risk drops, not overnight, not from one perfect meal, but from patterns. If this changed the way you think about low carb and low fat diets, hit subscribe every week. I break down real health research in plain English, no hype, no miracle promises, just honest conversations about what actually supports your body long term. And if you found this helpful, share it with someone who's tired of being confused about what to eat. Your heart will thank you for focusing on what truly matters.